Hello, welcome to Fireside Chats. My name is Magla Pillai, and today I have in the studio with me Sister Denise, who is here to share her spiritual knowledge and insight into the subject of the swastika. Sister Denise has been practicing Raj Yoga meditation for over 40 years. In this series, we look at the core of spirituality, and we look at what your relationship is with God and how you can deepen and make your relationship with Him or her more meaningful. Sister Denise, a very warm welcome to today's show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. The swastika. This has had played its role in humanity, is that not so, in India and outside India? Why is it a symbol within spiritual circles as well?
It's considered the most ancient of symbols. I think it's been found in Egyptian tombs, certainly in Greek temples of ancient Greece. Even I was, one of the centers that we have is a Victorian house in San Francisco, and in the parquet floor there is a swastika that's been inlaid, and that was from the beginning of the 20th century, about 1904, 1905. So up until the 1930s, when it was taken over by Hitler and it became associated with fascism, with Nazism, it was always considered as something very sacred. You can find it among the symbology of the Mayans in Mexico, the Native American Indians, the Indians in South America. So this symbol actually means self-knowledge, and so it's considered a very auspicious symbol. And I think that it was taken up by Hitler and got all sorts of bad press because it was believed that if you have this symbol and become a conqueror of the self, that makes you a conqueror of the world. So I think they forgot about the conqueror of the self part and just went on to use it as the sort of the talisman that enabled this empire of the world. You see, this is one of the temptations that happens to people who get a lot of power. They get the lust for power, and it turns into this desire to be the conqueror of the world. And this is what happened at the time of the Second World War. But the swastika is having a meaning which is extremely positive. So part of what we need to do is to re-establish it in its rightful position in the minds of people as a sign that is the most beneficial.
Yes, Denise, the swastika is a symbol with 4 arms, pieces, pointing in 4 different directions. Mm-hmm. Would you tell us about that? Does it have any purpose to the meaning behind the 4 arms?
Yeah, there's meaning in every part of it. You know, in India, when they write the swastika, you write it like a 2, and then the other way, and you tend to put 4 dots in the little squares made by the swastika.
It creates 4 quadrants, doesn't it?
4 quadrants, 4 equal quadrants.
Okay.
And in a way, it's really like the sign of the cross. You know, the Christian cross is also 4 quadrants, and you know, you have a little bit longer vertical one and a shorter cross bar, but it originated actually, I think, in the swastika and was used in Christianity because of its incredible implication and meaning of self-knowledge. You know, and there's this sentence, know thyself, and the other one, to thine own self be true. So there's very much part of Western philosophy that you must try and strive to understand yourself. And in India, it is said that the person who holds the swastika, they are the masters. You will see the symbol of the swastika on the right-hand index finger of the divinity called Vishnu. And you see how the swastika is spinning on the index finger. So the index finger is the symbol of the intellect. And when the index finger is pointing upwards, it's pointing towards God. And with the swastika spinning around in that, what it means is that you orient your intellect towards God, and you spin the cycle of all the stages that the self goes through, and then you are an absolute master.
Sister Denise, how is this symbol relevant to your own spiritual practice?
Along with the swastika, there are 3 other symbols in the deity Vishnu. One is the conch shell, one is the lotus, and one is the mace. And the swastika refers to purity of the mind.
It does?
Yes, because what the swastika is said to do is to cut off the heads of devils. And so then people think of it rather like a circular saw. And you're using that to cut off the heads of your enemies in battle.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually refers to something different. When you're spinning the swastika, which is the symbol of self-realization, which means that you are aware of yourself, the pure, peaceful, powerful, loveful being of light. Any thought that is in contradiction of that will be cut off. Or a thought will raise its head, so you cut off the head of that thought by this spinning of the cycle of self-knowledge. It makes sure, it's like a weapon, that makes sure that no negative or no incorrect or improper or waste thought can lodge itself in your consciousness and cause mischief, you see. So the spinning of the swastika ensures that your mind always remains absolutely pure. And when you have a pure mind, then you can invoke God to be with you in your mind.
That sounds very beautiful. Sister Denise, on a very practical note, I like to see things from this way up, okay? You're going about your life, and you decided that you want to embrace spirituality because, having listened to all the beautiful things you say, somebody is deeply inspired. Now you go throughout your life on any given day, and you're dealing with things like your obligations, like your responsibilities, the things you've got to do, the checklist that we all tick off on a daily basis, whether you're a housewife or a CFO. Then you use this knowledge of the swastika how? In that context, because how do you marry what you just said, the effort that you just described, with a practical lifestyle? Because the swastika is not an it that you keep in the crevices of the intellect, in the nice bookshelf in the intellect. It's something that you use. It's an active part of your meditation. So join those 2 dots for me.
Well, the swastika is what you use in your mind.
Okay.
Now, when you're coming into action, instead of using the swastika, you will use the lotus.
Okay, which we will discuss on another show.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in between, just to say that the lotus refers to purity of action. The conch refers to purity of speech. And then the mace refers to the power, basically, to say no.
Yo. And I thought it was just a nice picture. Okay.
All these symbols, they're very ancient symbols, and they have a lot of meaning, but people have a lot of difficulty interpreting them to bring the interpretation into a practical situation of a simple, regular life. So if I want to be a perfectly balanced person, because the symbol of Vishnu is the symbol of androgyny, where the masculine and feminine attributes of yourself are in perfect balance, and you are neither one nor the other, but you embrace both aspects. And the symbol of Vishnu is highly decorated, and all these decorations, these jewels, these clothings, this crown, is all to do with virtues. The crown, actually, there are two crowns. One crown, or it's called the double crown. So one crown is the crown of jewels, which refers to temporal sovereignty. It means you are really a master, a sovereign. You wield power and you get done what you want to get done. You are the king. And the other part of the double crown is the halo, or the crown of light, which means that you are the sovereign in terms of spiritual power. So when you have all of these symbols in place in one being, you have a really powerful goal, which is that you hold in your hands spiritual power, temporal power. You are completely the master of yourself, and you are able to rule the world. You do not rule the world by killing people or forcing them to be loyal to you. You rule the world because you have such mastery over yourself and the hearts of everyone else that you become that one that sort of ensures perfect and enduring harmony. And this is why it's the symbol of sustenance.
Okay. So Denise, in this material and physical world, people who have power or who attempt to exert power over others, there's the use of physical force and physical violence. Now, what you are saying is something totally different. How is it that such a subtle force, that's subtle, invisible, intangible, can actually cause one enough power to, as you say, rule the world? And which world are you referring to?
It's the power of purity, it's the power of beauty, it's the power of love, it's the power of you. The thing with the symbol of Vishnu, which is where you find the swastika, is Vishnu controls the five-headed snake. And so sometimes you see the picture of Vishnu with all of his symbols lying on a bed of snakes, and the five-headed cobra comes up over his head and becomes a canopy. So what that means is that the person has control over that which is evil. And if you can have absolute mastery of yourself, absolute mastery of the force of evil, and you've neutralized it, then you have become almost like God. But you are a human being. And of course you can't maintain that forever. You will use that and it will gradually decrease. But there is a point in time where you can hold together all of it and it can last for quite some time before it begins to lose its integrity.
Is it, Denise, the analogies that you're using, the symbols that you're using, the name of the deity that you just mentioned, all fall squarely under Hinduism? Why would somebody sitting in Argentina, the United States, Europe, Africa, Australia, who've got no connection with this religion in any way whatsoever, why would they resonate with what you just said? Because this comes from a different culture. Why is what you said universal rather than applicable only to something in the East?
I think the usefulness of it is that it lies at the base of all of the religions that emerged subsequently, and it is the roots, you see, so that if you want to go deep to the origins of culture, which a lot of people do, until recently, and people said, okay, well, it all starts in Egypt. But then people found, no, it actually starts in India. And so, you know, this cradle of civilization of northern India is now recognized. And so all of these symbols and ancient meanings are beginning to be seen to be relevant to the cultures that emerged later, because they're in the roots. So people who are interested, they will say, yeah, this resonates with me, this has some meaning, you know, like, for example, the swastika and the Christian cross, the star, all of these things, they all kind of go back to this this originating, in a way, lost mysteries of India, because, you know, the modern day Hinduism has these things but doesn't necessarily know them at this depth, you know. But when you really want to understand yourself and understand how the world is the way it is, I think that there is an attraction to where did it all start, you know, and they go back and back and back and back in history. And nowadays people are going back past Egypt and they're going back to India. They speak about Mohenjo-daro as, you know, perhaps the first place, the first civilization, and you find all these symbols there. And there are indications to say that these ancient civilizations were not primitive. They were very sophisticated, and yet the people who believe in evolution, the people who believe that we are progressing, they can't really tally this belief with ancient civilizations that are even shown to be highly technical. I mean, in ancient India, there are indications of airplanes. And we've only had airplanes for 100 years. And, you know, I think some of those airplanes that are mentioned in some of the mythologies were thought to be just imaginary, until we now are finding that the inventions of technology that are happening these days seem to match some of those ancient things. So then the question is arising, how did these people understand this? And then if you look at some of the astronomy that's going on in those ancient civilizations, they knew about things that our telescopes are only just beginning to discover. So how did they know? See, these questions are coming along. And so when you go back and look at what is there, and some of these symbols, and the swastika is one of the most ancient, you see that these are clues, these are keys to help us to understand about ourselves through the ancient past.
Sister Denise, the swastika, as far as self-knowledge is concerned, how does it help to ground one in reality? Because I like the expression that you used on a previous episode, that if you have your heads up in the clouds, you should also be quite grounded. How do you marry those two in the context of understanding the symbol of the swastika?
Well, the swastika is a rotating thing. You know, I was mentioning a little bit about the wheel. You know, and you have this expression, oh, we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
Well, who invented the wheel? Nobody invented the wheel. The original wheel is the swastika.
Ah, okay.
Because the swastika is spinning. And what is this? Well, it's the wheel of time. And it is useful for us because it tells us that time is divided into quadrants: morning, afternoon, evening, night, spring, summer, winter, autumn, winter, you know. And there are just cycles and cycles and cycles of different durations.
And patterns of 4.
Yes, yeah. And so it's a key, you see. I think that it's an indication that says that there is so much that humanity has lost and forgotten through different situations. But this key exists as a clue for us to be able to find something which, once we find it, we're able to get through all of these impossible questions that plague humanity in terms of philosophically, and that help us to understand the origins, the continuation, you know, the end, the new beginning, eternity, these very, very large metaphysical questions. Answers to them are held in these symbols, so that if we can understand them, that helps us to understand ourselves. And why do they say, know thyself? Something has to result from knowing the self. And I think what is the main result is that you become free.
You've mentioned one's own divinity. How does the swastika bring God into the picture?
I would say that the one who gives the swastika to humanity is God. So God is the possessor of the swastika, gives it to humanity, who can then become spinners of the swastika.
May I interject? You say that he gives it, so given that God is not physical and the swastika is not physical, giving means sharing his understanding in this context?
When you give something that is a symbol, you're giving wisdom.
Okay.
So the swastika is the symbol that holds the knowledge that you, the soul, the eternal soul, pass through all the different changes that are possible in time. And that if you can wrap your mind around the whole thing, then you take possession of everything, which puts you on the same level as God. And then, you see, you have huge responsibility because it gives you power. And what happened when the swastika was used by Hitler is that power was used to harm. It's pretty easy to hurt somebody. It doesn't take much. But that doesn't prove that you're powerful just because you can kill almost everyone in the world. What's so great about that, you know? But if you have the power to cause everyone's life to be sustained in a harmonious way for a long period of time, then you enjoy the happiness and the like gratitude and love, so that the relationship between the rulers, the people, the land, the farmers, all the different people in the society, everything in perfect harmony and perfect flow, and you have that power to keep it going. That is held in the secret of the swastika. The secret to enable life on earth to be happy for a long, long period of time. That's special.
Yes, it is. On that holy note, we will have to say goodbye to you right now. Thank you so much. I think you've shared a deep sense of insight into symbols that have existed for ages within Eastern philosophy, but is understood by very few. So thank you for that. There you go. If the swastika is something that you've never heard of, I think Sister Denise will have shown you a picture of this during the course of this episode. So try and see whether you are able to use the understanding of the swastika in your own life, and try and see as to whether you can take your own spiritual progress further as a result. And I think what sits with me the deepest is that the swastika is a gift from God to his children to conquer their darkness within. I think that stays with me very deeply. So thank you for joining us today, and goodbye.